ago. And it sounds like from your perspective, Alex, that you leave teammates with some severe cases of eye rolls at the rest of the locker room.
More than eye rolls. Like, dude, just get out. As a fan and as a teammate, get out. You don't want these guys on your team. I never wanted them as teammates. There is nothing right now that says that you can't turn around and still take the North. Dude, we're 4 games in, and you're already like Jalen Ramsey. I want out. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to be on this team anymore. Okay, first of all, it's a great team, okay? It's totally stacked. You just got one little problem. And there's ways around that problem. And that's what I think everyone's forgetting is that everyone's just going to jump this ship and say, hey, listen, it's all his fault. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm done. I'm out. Get rid of me. You can't do that. As a teammate, I look at you like, really? All that hard work we just put in, you're just going to pretend like that didn't happen. All that work we put in together that we did, all that film study, all that preparation, everything's just out the drain because we're 2-2. Like, as a teammate, I don't see you as a teammate anymore. I see you as almost the enemy. Who are you working for?
That's interesting. Yeah, you know what? It strikes me that both you and Sage Rosenfels, the guys who have played in the NFL, have a bit of a different way of looking at these things than reporters would. Because I would look at it as kind of, hey, from his perspective, he has had to play second fiddle here, and then he's expecting to be the superstar receiver, and he's expecting to drive success on offense, but they're 31st in passing. They've lost 2 key games in the NFC North because they couldn't pass the football. And you have a quarterback who has alienated now 2 out of 2 star receivers at different times, right? So, yeah. I mean, this from trying to look at it from all perspectives, I can definitely see teammates, like you're saying, looking at him going, all right, man, well, we've got 12 more games to play, so stop creating this huge distraction. But I could also look at it from his perspective and say, if this guy believes that he should be a number 1 receiver catching 100 balls and being playing toward his second contract, which could be enormous if he continued to put up 100 receptions, then it's got to be extremely frustrating when your head coach comes out and says, yeah, we basically want to run Delvin Cook, and we're very scared of Kirk throwing it.
Listen, you're making, what, $75 million? What are you bitching about?
Yeah.
What are you crying about? You're fumbling the ball in a game. You have the audacity to fumble the ball in the last game, and that week you come out and go, no, I'm good. I don't need to practice. I want out. I'd be like, dude, how about you do this? How about you turn around and leave the locker room now before it gets messy? I don't care who you are. At some point, somebody has to take a stand, right? You got all these players going all willy-nilly now because everybody thinks they get to do what they want. We're 2-2. I'm done. I don't want to do this. Oh, you don't? Good. Leave.
So and I definitely get that, but I also think that his sentiments could be shared by other people in the locker room. I mean, Kyle Rudolph today, can we play him talking about how he loves blocking? I'd love to hear that. Go ahead, John.
I know for me it's a lot of fun because no one thinks I can block. So to go out there and to not give up a sack to Khalil Mack and block Leonard Floyd and Cleveland Farrell, the number 4 overall pick in the draft. No one expects me to do that. Everyone knows I can run around and catch balls. So, when they turn on the tape and you see 82 blocking, you kind of take a step back because you're not used to seeing that. But I've had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks going out there and blocking and just trying again because that's what it's going to take for us to win football games, and that's what they're asking me to do.
This is where we're at right now.
But you know what? Listen. For as nonsense as that was, because I saw him getting driven back in the backfield by 52 all day on play side zones. Okay, Rudy, listen, the reason it didn't get to the outside was because of your block. But we're not going to talk about that. It's just these guys, they have all these sayings, and here I'm watching Diggs right now talk about it. Oh, there's truth in rumors. But Rudy finished it great. That's what they asked me to do. So that's what I do. That's a good teammate. That's a guy that's like, hey, listen, I get the situation we're in. No one's going to miraculously come save us right now. So we're either going to save ourselves or everyone's just going to jump off this ship. What Rudy's trying to do is say, hey, listen, I can catch balls, but I'm not complaining. I'll run block. And yeah, what's he going to do? Get up there and say, hey, I suck at run blocking? Like, he's trying to at least change the narrative into something else. And then he finishes it up with, and I'm okay with that because that's how we win.
So that's what he said. And just how Adam Thielen went and tried to do damage control on Kirk Cousins' podcast, that's what he said. But when we're really reading between the lines and looking at the situation. I mean, no one believes that Kyle Rudolph is thrilled to block Khalil Mack. Well, what a great time I had on Sunday. Thanks, everyone. Would you rather eat cake or get hit by a car? No, I love getting hit by a car. It's fine. Whatever it takes for the team. There's no way he's happy. He wasn't happy last year. He made it clear he wasn't happy last year because he didn't think he was getting enough catches, and he was getting way more than this. And then Thielen, week 17, is losing his mind on the sideline and yelling at Kirk Cousins. And of course, he comes out later and says, no, guys, greatest conversation I've ever had with another human being. It was so helpful to have us yelling at each other on the sideline. It's like, so what you have here is you have two guys who clearly want to get the ball more and are agitated with the situation. And then another guy who also same boat, except for the other guy is making it a little more known and being a little more forward facing about it. And I could see where your agitation would be, Alex, as a player saying, yeah, Rudy, why don't you just go up there and pretend you're fine and not try to make a headline out of this thing, as opposed to Diggs, who's now, on the scroll of every ESPN and NFL network. So I can understand that. But it's almost like, did someone have to send a message here? I mean, this passing game is 31st in the league. Last time I checked, you ain't winning anything with the 31st ranked passing game.
No, I agree. And why even send people anymore to the podium? Why not just do what the Patriots do and just be like, no, we're not. Can you send Diggs and Thielen? No, we're not. Why? Because we're not.
You could, but that doesn't generally work because Diggs ignored the media for the last 2 weeks, which was a tip-off that something was wrong. So but it doesn't exactly work. I mean, Diggs has always been a guy who I think sort of struggles to go up there and give you the Kyle Rudolph. Right. Kyle has done this many, many times, and he's gone through a lot, and he knows how to present himself like he's being the leader guy and the face of the franchise guy. That's not really Diggs' personality. So what I saw was a guy up there struggling to not say anything, but also to answer the questions, and it was really hard for him. I looked at him at one point, just sort of at his hairline, and he's like pouring sweat up there, like trying to sort of give you some type of answer, but try not to answer it. Say he didn't demand a trade, but not really, because he's clearly not happy. And I mean, in a way, I wish he had done the Jalen Ramsey. I wish he had gone up there and said, yeah, you know what? I am really tired of this, because that's what everyone is going to think anyway. So if he had been a little more straightforward about it, I guess trying to play the middle puts you in the worst spot in a situation like this, I think.
I agree with what you're saying, and I think that he would have been better had he done the Jalen Ramsey. I think it would have been better had he done it more professional. Not a hoodie on, not tied up around your mouth, not sitting there side to side, acting like a child. Like, okay, listen, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to have to say this. Okay, but I'm not going to tell you, but it's important that you know that you don't know. Listen, you're either happy or you're not. And if you're not happy, that's fine. As a teammate, I can respect that. Hey, are you happy? No, we're losing. Nobody's happy. What is there to be happy about?
Right.
The narrative doesn't have to be about you, Diggs. What do you benefit by going up there and saying, I want out? Now everybody in the locker room looks at you like, really? You just went and did that? We have a mountain of problems on our hands, and you've just went and made the biggest avalanche because you think that you're so important to this team that you can't not fumble during the game. That's that important to you. And not only that, taking your helmet off to prove what?
Yeah. The penalty was problematic,
you know what?
Too. Yeah.
You're incredible, dude. You really are, that you're going to go out there and cause all these problems and turn around and go, you know what? It's his fault. Because at the end of the day, at least I can respect Rudy saying, hey, I'm doing what I'm asked to do. There's your answer. I can respect that, Rudy. That's a tough question, and you went out and you answered it somewhat honestly. I respect that.
And you know what I think too about this Diggs situation and the things that you mentioned. The fumble was, what are you going to do? It's not like he fumbles all the time, but taking off the helmet though is something that he was called, I think, immature or something like that by Mike Zimmer after doing it, which you and I have talked extensively about Zimmer at the podium tending to say a little bit too much. And that was probably one of those cases as well, where he should have said nothing about what Diggs did there and still,
It's funny you bring that up because this is all kind of – on Tuesday we had talked about how, Zim treats the quarterback differently than the entire other 52 guys on the team. And so now all of a sudden, I'm wondering if this team isn't starting to see it and they're starting to lash back out like, hey, listen, I'm okay as long as when we come in here for the film session, you give him the same juice you just gave me.
Sure.
Because he's the one throwing the ball, and I'm the one trying to catch it, but having a guy draped on my back. So, like, who's really responsible here? And if you can do that, then I'm okay with that. But if you're going to keep treating him like he's special and we can't yell at Kirk because he's going to cry, well, then I got to go. And then if that's the case, then Diggs, you're still kind of doing it wrong. You're making this way more than it has to be.
I mean, doesn't it feel like everything comes back to these two, though, with Zimmer Zimmer and Cousins? Because with the Zimmer part of it, him doing a hostile offensive takeover and deciding, no, we're throwing this back to 1986. And it was amazing. Pat Shurmur was on the conference call, and everyone asked, "Oh, Pat, what do you remember about Minnesota? Did you love it there?" And he said, "Well, it was actually kind of interesting to be somewhere that was such a throwback that wanted to run the ball and play defense." It's like, oh, wow.
See?
What like a backhanded, compliment that is. And so Zimmer, hands his offense over to DeFilippo, who wants to be modern and throw the ball all the time. And then he says, "No, that's not working good enough. So you're fired. We're going to do it my way. We're going to hand the ball off. We're going to get Joe Morris and Rodney Hampton in here and hand the ball off all the time and throw it 10 times a game. And that's how we want to win." And then you have a quarterback who could have easily won both of those NFC North games with just a slightly decent performance as opposed to abysmal backup quarterback level or worse play. I have to say or worse since a backup beat him. And if you're Stefon Diggs and you're Adam Thielen and you're Kyle Rudolph, you have to be looking at this going, Mike Zimmer, what the hell?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, what the hell? Like, Kirk, how about you find me when I'm wide open? If we're only going to throw 12 passes a game, you better find me on the ones where I'm open. And that was, in Chicago, when I went back and looked at the game tape, it was astonishing how many times Diggs and Thielen were open or there were balls that could have been thrown to one-on-one coverage. I mean, there's one, I wish I knew the exact route combination off the top of my head, but where it's intentionally set up to draw in the safety. He comes in toward Kyle Rudolph, and there's Diggs running one-on-one down the sideline. That's a great play for him. He makes that all the time, and Kirk checks down to somebody. And it's like, at some point, I mean, I can totally get it. So I fully understand what you're saying, and I would not take any blame away from Diggs. He signed the contract. They're 2-2. The season is not over. Go out and play football. Come on, man, right? But then the other side of it is, there's a lot of alienation that has gone on the offensive side from pretty much everyone, from Zimmer to Cousins to how the front office built this team. I mean, if Diggs doesn't play on Sunday, BC Johnson is your number 2 wide receiver. How does that happen? So there's a lot of blame to go around.
Right, and you got a lot of problems. And we haven't even brought up the OC. Like, the more I think about this, the more I'm like, you know what, listen. Kirk is who he is. You can't blame a guy for what he is. He has always been that guy. It's like, Spielman brought him in thinking, listen, we're going to put all these pieces around him and we're going to elevate his game. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you just can't elevate some people's game. They just can't see the field the way you want them to.
Yep.
Right? Like, OCs always say it. You just can't see the field the way I want you to. And you're like, well, paint a picture for me, dude. Show me how you want me to see this. And sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't. And sometimes the quarterback's like, man, that's just not feasible. Like, I just can't do that. I can't check from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 that quick. And sometimes you start getting him rattled and then he gets into bad patterns. But when I'm looking around, I'm starting to think, man, this is like DeFilippo all over again. We're trying to be too creative once again. Like, we get into this tough game and all of a sudden everyone starts biting their nails. Oh my God, we're in Chicago. We're in the Monsters of the Midway. This is going to be a tough game. We're nail biters right now. We're 7-0. Let's abandon the run and we'll go over here, but we'll come back. But we never really did. You should just keep going. You have to trust exactly what your identity is. We are a smash mouth team. We are going to run the ball. If you don't like it, you have to go. I'm sorry. The quarterback cannot leave. No matter what you say, the quarterback cannot go. Number one, because nobody will take him. And number two, because you can't just get rid of him, can you?
No, you can't. Not in the situation you're in now. No, you can't. He's your quarterback.
But I'm saying after this year, can you?
After this year, it would be possible only if he waived a no trade. Then if you found somebody who wanted to trade for him and he agreed to it, then
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody's going to trade for that cap.
That's right. Unlikely.
So, I mean, use what you have. All these guys are talking about how they were chomping at the bit to be an OC. Okay, Stefanski, you're an OC. This is not what I expected. I expected to see more. I expected to see more advanced. I'm just seeing what? A bunch of wide zones. A bunch of routes that people keep telling you stop running. You cannot hit these deep routes. You need to shorten up your offense, and then you can start going deep.
And now, doesn't it feel like, too, that Stefanski, who has been around quite a bit, was here with Childress, was here with Shermer, people who have had a lot of success on offense, and yet he was given a guardian for the offense in Gary Kubiak, right? I mean, so
here's your big brother.
This is just something that's sort of been out there, I'll put it that way, a little bit of buzz of like, well, Stefanski's got ideas and everyone likes Stefanski and thinks he's very smart and clever and would want to advance this thing to 2019, but he's being restricted is the way that it's been sort of put to me.
I don't believe that for one bit, because Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman know exactly how hot that seat is. And if you think Gary Kubiak's name's not being attached to this, you're absolutely wrong. Like, when you leave the NFL, you people are like, that was a coach. I mean, Gary Kubiak, he was a good coach. Mm-hmm. When you step your foot back into that water, you just asked John Gruden how tough it gets. People go, hey, man, you were out. You could have been done.
Right.
And nobody would have said your name again. And they would have said great things about you and that he was a tough coach and that he great philosophy. But when you take a 1990s coach and you bring him into the modern era, you really don't know what you're doing. Because this game has evolved so much from what Gary Kubiak knows. And not only that, but now his name's being dragged in. And now everyone's going, well, who are we really blaming? Because there's like 10 people that we could blame. So maybe we just got to get rid of everybody. And then we got a real problem. Because when you do a fire sale, look at Miami. I'm sorry, but you got to go.
Yeah. And to quote Jay-Z, it was all good just a week ago.
It was. I mean, it really was.
It really was. Fast. It really was. I mean, okay, it wasn't perfect after they beat the Raiders, but 2-1, and it looked like, good. All right, move along forward to this next game, and it really can change incredibly.